My six-word story is to tell the stories that shatter complacency. And that's my six-word story because the 4 years before I came to law school, I volunteered at Bread and Roses. I volunteered there the first year and then I started working there. So Bread and Roses to nourish the body and to, the roses are for dignity and the bread is for nourishment. And my homeless customers would come in every day and they'd get a warm meal and we'd have a friendly conversation. But the customers that came my first year, they came all the way until I left. And so what I realized is what they needed more than just a warm meal or a friendly conversation was someone to tell their story. And that's why I came to law school, was to do just that. But I soon realized that the law often erects a barrier between lawyers and clients. The law is informed by false narratives because it tells incomplete stories. For example, when I was at the ACLU working on education equity litigation, we were trying to get more school minutes and more school funding. And I couldn't include in my brief the fact that a lot of the students were too afraid to walk to school because they lived in the most gang-ridden neighborhoods in the state of California. At the Federal Public Defender, I wanted to include in my motion the fact that my client was physically abused as a child, that he lived in a group home until he was 18 and then was kicked out to live in the streets. But I couldn't include that in my brief because it wasn't relevant to the statutory provision that was defining the elements of his crime. So next year, I'll be clerking for a federal judge. And my personal moonshot for the year of 2016 is to use that experience to understand how formal procedures and substantive rules and institutional structures marginalize the voices of so many. They marginalize the voices of my homeless customers at Bread and Roses. They marginalize the voices of the school children at the schools in the lawsuit that I was working on at the ACLU. And they marginalize the voices of criminal defendants who, what they need more than a mandatory minimum is just a chance to transcend their life of poverty and neglect. So my moonshot is to actually tell those stories so the law can live in truth.